All right, welcome back. Let's go ahead and jump on this Ttt diagram. So we developed this last time. What I want to do in this short video is to just go through some examples of its use. So let's go ahead and say that we have a processing that our material, our steel we've got sitting here is initially, let's say, a Bainite structure, and we'd like to transform that into a different structure, let's say maybe a fine perlite. So the first step in all of the processes are to austenitize. There we go. Austenitize our steel. Right? This just again means to just heat above the 727 so that we're in the austenite region on the phase diagram. So that's this line here, 727. So I'm going to be sitting up here in my austenite region, and I give it enough time so that I have 100% austenite for my structure. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cool rapidly. Sometimes we'll just say quench to, let's go to, let's say maybe 580 degrees C. Okay, so I'm going to drop to about 580. And then here at step 3, I'm going to hold. And I'm going to hold for, let's say, 10 seconds. And then I'm going to quench down to room temperature. So my hold for 10 seconds will take me right here to this point. And at this point now, I have 100% fine perlite. Okay, so I'm on the bottom half of the diagram forming perlite relatively rapidly, so that would be a fine perlite. And then I'm going to just quench it down into room temperature. Once I have the perlite, the rest of the diagram doesn't matter. If I'm cooling it down to room temperature, that's what I maintain. So this process would have given me 100% fine perlite. All right, let's say that I wanted to get 100% Bainite, and I'm starting off with this 100% fine perlite. So I would need to do the same kind of steps. Let me get rid of this last one. I would need to austenitize. So I need to get rid of the fine perlite and form austenite. So I can't go from fine perlite directly to Bainite. Okay, the only way I can get to Bainite is I must have austenite first. The only way to get to perlite is I must have austenite first. And so austenite is really the key. That's the phase that will transform into these other structures. I can't form perlite out of Bainite or Bainite out of perlite. I have to first austenitize, and then I can use that. And that's the same for the martensite. It's austenite that forms martensite. Okay, so that's my key. So if I want Bainite, then I would say something like, cool rapidly to maybe 400 degrees C, and then I would hold at 400 degrees C for maybe, let's just go ahead and say 1,000 seconds. So it's fine if it's longer than I need to. So there's 1,000 seconds. So I have 100% Bainite, and then I can quench down. So Bainite is stable. All right. And let's see, what else can we do? So let's do something that's a little more tricky. Let's say that we have an example where we austenitize. And let's say that we cool to, let's say 630 degrees C, and we hold for 10 seconds. And then we, let's say I'm going to cool now to, well, actually, let me just go ahead and we're going to now quench down to room temperature. All right, what happens here? So Austenitize, I cooled about 630, somewhere around here. And I'm going to hold for 10 seconds. So 10 seconds is putting me, so at this point, I have 50% perlite, which means I still have 50% austenite, right? Because I'm only on the 50% transformation curve. I haven't crossed this green curve, this curve all the way to the right, which is the 100% line. So I'm at 50-50 at this point. And now I'm going to go ahead and quench down to room temperature. So what will happen once I quench, that perlite's stable, I have that, 50% perlite, but I cannot have austenite at room temperature. And so the austenite part then simply transforms, in this case, to martensite. So I'll end up with a 50% perlite, 50% martensite structure. All right. So we could play this game in many different ways. We could, instead of quenching, let's say that we were to cool to, let's pick 300 degrees C, and let's hold for about 600 or so seconds, and then we'll go ahead and quench to room temperature. All right, so once I've done my hold at 10 seconds, if I want to cool to a new temperature, the way I want to think about this is that I'm just starting my time over again. That's the way this diagram is used. So I would start at my time over, I drop down to 300, and then I would hold for 600 seconds. And so I'm trying to put you on this spot here on the 50% curve again. And so remember, at this point, I still have the 50% perlite. That doesn't go away. But I have to transform 50% of my austenite now to bainite. Well, I only have 50% austenite, so that means half of it becomes bainite, and then I still have 25% austenite. And then my final cool to room temperature will transform that austenite into martensite. So I have 50 perlite, 25 bainite, and 25 martensite. So you can see there's all kinds of processing routes we can undergo to get various percentages of these different microconstituents, and they're all going to have very different mechanical behavior. The last one that I will mention here, and then we're going to bring that one up again in the next video, but if we were to quench and form martensite, okay, and that can be for any of these other cases where we got martensite as part of our process as well, there's another step that we could do, which would be to reheat the martensite. And usually we're in this sort of 300, 400 range. We would reheat the martensite and hold it for an hour setting. And what that will do is it will take the martensite and it will transform it into a tempered martensite. And tempered martensite is very, very strong, but yet it's got back some of its ductility. It's called tempered martensite, but tempered martensite is actually the ferrite and cementite. Now, it's not a body-centered tetragonal, so we do transform back to the ferrite and cementite phases. Okay, that's tempered martensite. So tempered martensite isn't on the diagram. It's just the step that after forming martensite, we would reheat for some time, like an hour. So this reheat process, when you do that, again, don't do it on the diagram because it doesn't mean that if you were to reheat it and hold, you get bainite. You don't. So martensite can go to tempered martensite. That's it. This reheat doesn't affect the other structures. And again, you can only form perlite and bainite and the martensite itself from austenite. So those are kind of our rules. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end that here.